When you're the boss's daughter, there are bound to be some people who don't like you. When you're Vince McMahon's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, those hard feelings become full-on feuds. Chyna and Triple H, real name Paul Levesque, were once an item, reportedly dating from 1996 until 2000. Their relationship ended abruptly and bitterly when she learned that he was having an affair with the woman who would become his wife, Stephanie McMahon. Chyna's former manager, Anthony Anzaldo, told Wrestling Inc. that Chyna found a love letter McMahon had written Levesque and angrily confronted him.
When they had that encounter, let's just say it was loud, and there was issues.
Anzaldo explained that Chyna immediately exited the home they were sharing, not even bothering to take any of her stuff. He claimed that Chyna was fired the next day without cause. That led Chyna to corner Stephanie in her father's office for an understandably tense meeting.
Didn't get physical, but it was ugly.
Former WWE announcer Jim Ross, however, shared a different recollection of Chyna's WWE exit. He told BR Magazine that despite all the drama, Vince McMahon still wanted to keep her in the fold, firmly believing that her beef with his daughter would subside. Ross claimed that WWE offered Chyna $400,000 to renew her contract. However, she demanded $1 million and wouldn't budge. Ross said it was an outrageous demand that wasn't even realistic. Tragically, Chyna died in 2016 at the age of 46. In 2013, a Raw segment involving Stephanie McMahon and then diva Kaitlyn, among others, reportedly spilled over from real life. The scripted segment featured Kaitlyn, whose real name is Celeste Bonin, interrupting McMahon, who angrily told her to never do it again. The Wrestling Observer reported that this TV moment was based on an actual behind-the-scenes incident. The outlet reported that Kaitlyn had butted in while McMahon was engaged in a conversation with someone else, irking McMahon. It wasn't long after that encounter that Kaitlyn lost the WWE Divas title. On a 2023 episode of Muscle Memory, Bonin wondered why Stephanie ran her down like that.
To be so honest, it was all very confusing. It was all so confusing.
Her WWE career as Kaitlyn soon came to an end, save for a brief 2018 return. Bonin told Renee Paquette that when she exited in 2014, she was at a frighteningly low ebb.
I thought I was just gonna get fired. I felt like less and less relevant. I had so much shame.
Bonin seems to be in a much better place now, but it's unclear if she and Stephanie ever made amends. It's not always clear how much of the animosity between WWE wrestlers is real and how much is total fiction for the cameras. That was certainly true of the rivalry between Chris Jericho and Stephanie McMahon that persisted for years. One conflict between the two happened entirely backstage, though. Before a scheduled 2009 match between Jericho and John Cena in London, Jericho taunted the audience so intensely that someone in the crowd threw a glow stick at him, smacking him in the eye. Suddenly, glow sticks began flying throughout the venue. When he exited the ring and went backstage, WWE management was furious with him for getting the crowd so amped up that things became potentially dangerous. According to Jericho, Stephanie was particularly enraged. In an appearance on the Busted Open podcast, Jericho said that when he went backstage, he was told that Stephanie wanted him fined and suspended. His response?
Well, Stephanie's not my boss. I don't give a what Stephanie wants. You can tell her that.
To make his point, Jericho left a voicemail for Vince McMahon, angrily telling him that his job is to generate heat in the ring, and that now he was in trouble for doing his job too well. It all worked out, according to Jericho, as Vince texted him back, "Calm down, Junior," with a smiley face emoji. In his heyday, Bret Hitman Hart was one of WWE's biggest stars. He's been retired for more than 20 years, but has demonstrated that he keeps up with the product. And he wasn't the biggest fan of its evolution a few years ago. He argued in a shoot interview conducted around the time that Triple H won the WWE title in 2016 that Triple H and his wife, Stephanie McMahon, weren't doing a great job. He said, "The two of them are starting to show they don't know what they're doing, in my opinion." Hart had expressed similar views when he spoke with Forbes around the same time, lambasting Stephanie for possessing little frontline knowledge of the company she was leading.
What does Stephanie McMahon know about wrestling? I don't know.
Hart insisted that Stephanie never went on the road with him and his fellow wrestlers, and that her brother Shane McMahon had a better grasp on the industry. Gail Kim had two separate stints in WWE from 2002 until 2004 and 2008 through to 2011. Looking back on her years with the promotion while appearing on the Café de Renee with Renee Dupree podcast, Kim shared that while Stephanie McMahon never mistreated female wrestlers, she also didn't go out of her way to increase their salaries to the levels of their male counterparts.
Stephanie was nice. Stephanie was professional with us backstage. But in no way did I ever feel like she was fighting for us.
She also revealed that many members of the WWE women's roster were hesitant to address the pay disparity or otherwise upset the status quo for fear that they might lose their jobs. Kim added that even if McMahon had taken a stand on behalf of the women's roster, it's more than likely that she would have encountered huge resistance at the top from her father, Vince McMahon.
I just thought it was a losing battle because Vince just never liked women's wrestling. You know, that's what you chalk it up to.
In 2015, actress Patricia Arquette, whose brother David is a former WCW world champion, you may recall, made an impassioned speech upon winning an Oscar at the 2015 Academy Awards. She said, "It's our time to have wage equality once and for all and equal rights for women of the United States of America." Her comments caught the ears of Stephanie McMahon, who thanked Arquette for using her platform to promote the issue of men and women's salary inequity. McMahon's tweet fell flat with former WWE diva AJ Lee. The wrestler, who now goes by her real name AJ Mendez on social media, fired back at her former boss, replying, "Your female wrestlers have record-selling merchandise and have starred in the highest-rated segment of the show several times, and yet they receive a fraction of the wages and screen time of the majority of the male roster." McMahon took the diplomatic route, replying, "I appreciate your opinion," along with the hashtag #UseYourVoice. Scott Steiner, alongside his brother and tag team partner Rick Steiner, wrestled for many organizations over the years, including a few different runs in WWE. He has made it clear that his experience with Stephanie McMahon and her husband Triple H was not a positive one. That's the takeaway from a 2017 interview he gave to Nick's Strength and Power. When WWE came up, his response couldn't have been more blunt. When pressed as to why he felt that way, Scott said it was the leadership and named two names. That said, Scott seems to have had a change of heart over the years. He and Rick returned to WWE in 2022 to be indicted into the Hall of Fame. When Rob Van Dam transitioned to WWE after being one of the top stars in ECW, he quickly realized that he'd have to use some different skills. He was expected to participate in far more tightly scripted storylines to keep the weekly TV shows moving forward. That included some acting in backstage segments, and one that never came to fruition called for him to become romantically involved with Stephanie McMahon. He had some second thoughts about that one. He explained on his podcast, One of a Kind with RVD, that his then wife would not have been pleased.
I saw where the story was going and I was uncomfortable with it because that would make my life hell at home.
Van Dam shared his concerns with McMahon, who advised him to look at the situation as if they were both actors portraying characters. Van Dam added that pretending to romance the daughter of the guy who paid his salary wasn't necessarily the most comfortable situation for him. He said he felt like he would always have to wash his hands before a segment because he was, quote, probably dirty or whatever. A long-standing pro wrestling rumor has it that Macho Man Randy Savage's 1994 exit from WWE had to do with an inappropriate romance with Stephanie McMahon when she was 17. According to former pro wrestler and WWE manager Dutch Mantell, whether the rumor was true was beside the point. He said on his Storytime podcast,
"It was more or less accepted as fact."
The way Mantell recalled the situation, Savage had been warned to stay away from Stephanie, likely not by her father, then WWE chairman Vince McMahon, but by someone else within the organization.
She may have said something like she likes him and he got back to Vince.
Mantell said he could not confirm whether the rumor was true. However, Savage's ex-girlfriend, Stephanie Bellers, who went by the name Gorgeous George in WCW, claimed that Savage had accidentally confirmed it was true while he was high. She said in a phone call to the Hannibal TV, "Oh, he told me. I think he didn't mean to tell me that." It was long thought that Savage was not inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame while he was alive because of this rumor, and the conflict it caused with the McMahon family. Savage was posthumously inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2015, 4 years after his 2011 death from a heart attack at age 58.